Hello, welcome back to Passport to Flavor. We're gonna stay in the US today and we're gonna be making one of my all-time favorite sandwiches, which is a Chicken Spiedie. And you're like, what is that? You've never heard of that before. Unless you're from upstate New York, you probably haven't heard of it. My dad's side of the family lives up in Elmira, New York, and I remember having this sandwich when I was in culinary school and just being shocked that I had not had it before. Turns out there's a whole Spiedie fest. It originates from Binghamton, New York. It's basically Italian seasoning marinated chicken that you serve on a sub roll with whatever toppings you like. We're gonna go ahead and get started with the recipe. So the first thing we're gonna do is make the marinade. A key thing to that marinade is white vinegar. White vinegar is pretty astringent vinegar. It's pretty basic vinegar, but it helps to break down the chicken and make it a little bit more juicy and add some more texture to it, which is always good. To that, we're gonna add 2 teaspoons of lemon juice, a 1/4 cup of oil, and then it's time for our seasonings. Another unique thing is sugar. You don't usually see sugar in marinades. This is going to help the chicken to brown a little bit as we cook it and add a little bit of sweetness to it. And then it's time for a bunch of different seasonings. So we're gonna add a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt now, but we will add more later. We're gonna add a 1/2 teaspoon of basil, half teaspoon of oregano. Oregano is like a big star of this dish. It helps to give it that Spiedie flavor. Half teaspoon of parsley. And all these are dry spices, so you can have these all in stock and just make it whenever you want. I'm one of those people who makes a batch of this and then freezes the chicken already in the marinade and gets it out when I'm yearning for a Spiedie. And then a 1/4 teaspoon of red pepper flakes, okay? And then the last ingredient we're adding into this is some garlic cloves. So about 4 garlic cloves. I'm gonna be using a garlic press to do this, so just to make it nice and fine because this is for a marinade. So just press that through here. We'll scrape it off. And that's the marinade. Very simple, very easy. Now, if you live by a Wegmans, that grocery store originated up in Rochester, so they've had Spiedies. You can go in there and you get Spiedie sauce already mixed. You just have to toss it in the chicken, but why not make it? You saw how easy this was, very few ingredients. We're just gonna whisk this together, and we are all good to go. Next thing is letting the chicken marinate. We want this chicken to marinate in this, I'd say as long as you can. 24 hours is what I'm shooting for. So we're gonna take this chicken, which is about 1.5 pounds in chicken. We're gonna dump it in here and just get it mixed around. And overnight, that vinegar is gonna seep into the chicken. It's gonna make it more juicy, help for all those flavors to permeate in there. And we'll have a nice, delicious Spiedie in no time. So get this ready in advance. You know, more than a day can sometimes be pushing it because it might be, it might like move the proteins too much that they get kind of mushy. So I wouldn't go over 24 hours. If you had to do less, I'd say a minimum of 2 hours to have this marinated would be great. So we'll let this in the fridge and I'll be back in no time with my second batch. Okay, so here we have the marinade that I just made. And over here is one that's been sitting for 24 hours. If you look, you can see that this chicken is still pink, right? As it marinates, it's kind of cooking the proteins a little bit. If you ever had ceviche, it's a similar concept. When you cook, you're denaturing proteins. When you're putting vinegar on something, you're also denaturing proteins, just not in the same way. Do not eat raw chicken, but you can see that the color difference on here is quite vast. That's that vinegar working to give it a little bit of cooked, right? So this is the one we just started marinating. This is the one that's been marinating overnight. So that's gonna be more flavor in there. So next step is we need a pan that's screeching hot. If you're at home, Why is it called a Spiedie? It's called a Spiedie because an Italian spiedini is a skewer, and it used to be skewered meat that they would grill. So you can feel free more than to grill this. I just don't have a grill here at school, so we're going to be using a saute pan, which is totally fine. Nowadays, if you go to most shops that serve Spiedies, they do them on a flat top anyway, so this is going to work fine. So basically what happened was these Italian immigrants came, and they were serving this chicken on a skewer, and then one day some guy asked for bread, and they just put it on a slice of Italian bread. Nowadays, you get it in a sub roll, because who doesn't love a good sub roll? But yeah, that's where the story started, and now, like I said, you go to Binghamton, you can go to a Spiedie festival every year where they have a bunch of different kinds. It's a goal of mine to go there at some point. So this pan is pretty warm. We want the pan to be nice and warm, and we're gonna add a little bit of oil to the pan. There is oil in the marinade, but we wanna help aid that along, because we're not gonna dump all this marinade in. We just wanna kinda, a little bit in there is fine, but we're just gonna dump this chicken in and let it cook. Oh, and you can start to smell it. It smells so good right now in here. It smells like oregano is a big note you get. There's a little bit of that vinegary-ness, kind of like, kind of like Italian salad dressing to a certain degree. It's a little bit more amped up. So what we want to do is kind of let this stay flat like this. If we're mixing it around too much, it will cook, but it's gonna be more steaming, and all that crust that we could form is not gonna happen. That's why if you grill, it's the preferred way. You just put it on the skewer, let it sit, and it'll be all good. But in here, we need to kind of let it, like there's vinegar and water inside of this chicken that's gonna have to evaporate first before we get that crust. So if we had a grill, we just put it on, that water would evaporate or fall down to the bottom. We wouldn't have to worry about it. But in here, it's gonna kind of steam unless we let it kind of sit and do its thing. So we'll let it sit. After it started to form that crust, we can start to stir it more often. But it will take about maybe 12 minutes or so before this chicken's fully cooked. And then you just got to get it on a nice hoagie roll, and you're all set. You can put it on a salad. I've seen it on pizzas. You can see it a bunch of different ways. So like I said, we want to let this sit and kind of get a little bit of crust on the bottom, and then it's time to just go ahead and stir it. And what we're looking for here is just fully cooked chicken, right? And a little bit more color than this. Like I said, with a grill, you're gonna get a decent bit more color than you're gonna be able to get in this pan, because there's just so much liquid. Vinegar is like 93% liquid anyway. So as it like goes into the chicken kind of needs to leach that out. So there is gonna be a lot of sauce that piles up in here that wouldn't happen in a grill. So we're just gonna cook this down for a little while. Like I said, it's called a Spiedie because it's a spiedini, not because it is speedy to make. Typically when we go to restaurants up there and I order one, I'm always the last one to get my food, because typically the restaurants up there will cook it fresh on the flat top. And with decent sized cubes of chicken like this, it does take a while for it to cook. Now, when it comes to toppings, the traditional way is just a slice of bread. You put it on there. Like I said, now this has become like a very popular sub up there. So for me, I can't have a sandwich without mayonnaise. So we're gonna put a little mayonnaise on the roll, and then I'm just gonna stick with lettuce. I found that too much on it is gonna end up making the chicken kind of hide behind it. We want that to be the star of the dish. It has a lot of flavor in there. It has that tartness from the vinegar, and it has a bunch of those seasonings. So if we're throwing in pickles and all this other stuff on there, you're gonna lose that taste. A lot of people do put cheese on it. Provolone is my choice. I don't have any today. I'm just sticking with the basics, but feel free, do whatever you want to this. As long as the marinade stays the same, it's the Spiedie, as far as I know. And if I'm wrong, I'm not from Binghamton, but you can correct me if I am. So we're looking at it now, and we can see that the chicken's fully cooked. I don't want to go too much longer. It hasn't necessarily got the color I wanted to, but like I said, grilling is the better option to go here. So now all we got to do is plate it up. Make sure you taste that chicken too beforehand. The marinade does have salt in it, but you're definitely going to need to sprinkle some salt on top before the final product. We're just going to take a hoagie roll and spread some mayonnaise on here. Like I said, maybe not the most traditional, but definitely tasty. Who doesn't like mayonnaise? And then we'll just put a little bed of lettuce down here on this side. And just start layering some pieces of chicken in here. I know you've probably had all these seasonings before, and you probably had all these seasonings on chicken before, but there's something about this. It's just like the best grilled chicken sandwich I've ever had. So look at that little sandwich there. Now I'm gonna cut into this and show you a little bit of the cross section, and we'll be good to go. Like I said, if you want a cheese, throw a little cheese in the pan while at this last step after the chicken's fully cooked, and we're ready to go. And then all the stuff falls out. You can see there we got big chunks of chicken, a little bit of lettuce, all the good things that we're looking for in a sandwich. Let's just stuff these good pieces back in. And it's time for a taste. Like I said, there's just something about it. It's got that vinegariness with the oregano. It's just a great sandwich. You got to make this and then tell all your friends from upstate New York that you know about this so you sound cool. Thank you for tuning in to Passport to Flavor. Join us next time where we'll make another great recipe that maybe you never heard of. Have a great night.